Good afternoon, everyone. This is Cliff Hannes coming to you from Texas, and today I'm going to pin the cows and pull off all the big calves and wean them. And I've got my mule running with the trip hopper on it. Cattle hear that start up and they are at rapt attention. So we're going to drive down to the pen. They'll follow me into the pen. We'll cut off the calves and I'll show you that as we go. Stay tuned. Headed down to the gate between the pastures and watch these cows mobilize. They know that this means a little bit of a free lunch. They're going to be on welfare for a little while today. And so this is the Texas way to pin cows on these smaller places. If your cattle are wild and spooky, they oftentimes won't come in the pen, and it's important to get rid of those kind of cattle to make your job a lot easier. You don't need something that's crazy running you over or that you can't pin, etc. So here we go. Go through this gate and we'll go on into the pen. Got the gate set and we're ready to get them in the pen. Pull the trigger on the trip hopper. So once they're all in that big wing that funnels into the corral, I'll let them go ahead and finish eating those cubes so we don't waste any of them. And then once they've eaten those cubes, I'll go ahead and start moving them into the pen. Now, what you're going to see happen here in a minute, besides that butterfly or bee or whatever flying around right there, is they get to a bottleneck and they don't want to go on into the pen. So I use a rope just because it makes a little bit of noise when I whirl it, and I'm making just a little noise, kind of a that will kind of smooch them along. And again, I like to be slow and easy. Today I elected not to have any help with me, and the reason being I can just work these cows so much slower and get them through the process with as little stress as possible. So they ended up in a bottleneck there, so I went on up to the front, and there was about 7 or 8 cows in there that were just standing in the gate. So I closed the gate and I pushed them on into a different pen, and then that makes it a lot easier to get the rest of these cows pinned, because they're gonna get up there towards that that funnel where it funnels into that gate and then into the corral, and they're going to see those other cows in that other pen, and we shouldn't have the issues with getting them pinned. So I came back after I got those cows pinned, and again I'm just kind of twirling the rope, piddling around, just taking it easy, not getting in a big hurry, not screaming and hollering, and I'm just moving that group of cows up towards the pen, and they'll they go pretty easy. There's always going to be one that you have trouble with, or several, so I'm just kind of piddling here, and they want to get up right to that gate, and then they want to stop. And you can see I got one cow that gets past me right there. I don't get excited, I just go down to the other end of the pen, get around that cow, and move her back. And again, I'm just making that sound, not a sound that I learned anywhere, just came to me. And I'll swing that rope and just kind of smooch them along, and pretty soon once one goes, they all will start going. So we went ahead and got them in the pen, and again I'm trying to do things as low stress as I can. If you have 3 or 4 people or more there, it just turns into a rodeo. About 2/3 of the folks won't know what they're supposed to do and what their job is. You can hire cowboys that do this every day, but for my little operation, I just like to just take it easy and work them the way that I'm doing in this particular situation. So once I get them in the pen, I was watching as I went, and that there's a little jag of cows here that I was going to let out and let by me and go ahead and turn them out to the pasture, because they were just baby calves and cows. And you can see here we got a big calf on the right, got some little calves, and you look at all this little group of cows I have, and you say, well, why has he got such big calves and then a group of little calves? And I've always just run my bulls year round with these cows, and the reason being I don't have a separate place to keep those bulls and keep them hemmed up for 4 months at a time. So I just decided some time ago that I was just going to keep those bulls out with the cows, and they've self-regulated themselves into a group of fall calving cows and a group of spring calving cows, and there's some stragglers on either side of that, but that's just the situation I've found myself in, and gone with. So you can see a pretty good little bull calf right there. And so I'm just working slow and easy. I'm in the pen. This cow that you can see in the picture right there, that's not her calf. She's got a big calf on her, and that's why she's thin. Her body condition score is certainly below what we would like. But she's got a big calf nursing on her hard and dragging her down. And so it's high time to get her calf off of her. And again, you'd look at that picture and you'd think to yourself, well, that's her baby, but in fact it's not. She's got a real big calf on her. She'll calve again come May and start the cycle again, but she's about a body condition score of 3.5, maybe 4. I like them 5 to 6. I've got some that are 6 and 7. Most of those cattle in the picture right there are pretty good body condition score. But again, beggars can't be choosy. My time really pulls me down as far as being a veterinarian 99% of the time and a cattle rancher the rest of the time. So I do things when I have time or can make the time, and I'm just gradually sneaking cows and bulls and baby calves off of that group of calves. So you're seeing the stock on one side of my 4 pins, and I'm going around to open a gate to the outside pasture. So there's one pin between where this group of cattle is and the outside pasture, so I'm opening those gates and coming around, and then I'll push these cows and the bull, 2 bulls, I'll push them into the pasture and be done with this. So again, no big calves in this group. There's that red calf clear against the fence. He's about an 8-9 month old South Pole bull. He's registered, and so he looks like a big calf, but he's in fact going to be one of my herd sires. So we're looking at the other 2 sets of pins on the other side of the corral, and excuse me for the jerking around. I was trying to get the tripod wired to the fence, so I was piddling around a little bit with the camera going. And so you can see the setup over here. So I have all those cows in the 2 sets of pins on this side of the alleyway and the squeeze chute. And so I'm going to run them into the far pin here, and I should have put the wide angle on my camera, but didn't have anybody else to help me video. So again, not ideal, but you'll get the idea of what I'm doing. So I push them into that far pin, and I'm just trying to cut off the cows as we go. So you just got to go slow and easy. I'm trying to watch the cows and where they're looking and how they're telling me they're going to travel. And so we just go one at a time, then another. I'll get a couple of more in there, and then I'm going to empty the pen on the right and go ahead and run them out into the other corral on the other side of the chute, so that if I make a mistake and get some calves in that get past me from the pen on the left into the pen on the right, I don't have to go back and get the whole bunch back in. So I'm just very carefully just cutting out a few. We're going to go here in just a second. We'll empty this pen and run them into to another pen, and then we'll close the gate so that we can come back and get a few more at a time. So it is a little bit more labor intensive, but again, I'm going to tell you, when you have a lot of help, sometimes you have no help at all. And I know these cows well. They know me. They're not scared of me. You get another cowboy in there, and all of a sudden you got a bunch of cattle that they're just a little less mellow. They're a little worried about what they're seeing, and particularly if you have somebody that tends to want to holler a bit and wave their arms a lot, those kinds of things, at least for my small herd, I just don't care for it. Now, there is occasion when I work these cattle and run them through the chute, and I need somebody on the head catch, I need somebody squeezing them, and I need somebody running the gates and putting them in the alley and helping me get them all through. I can do it one at a time, but it's very labor intensive, so usually I'll have my kids and my wife help me, and we'll get the bigger jobs done. But today I'm just trying to keep the big calves back and let all the cows and the little calves back out to the pasture. So I just take it one by one, get them cut out. You can see those South Pole heifers, if you've been noticing, boy, they're all in really good shape. They're all springing pretty heavy, meaning their vulvar area is getting pretty loose, and they're softening up there in preparation to calve. Look at that heifer there, she's getting pretty loose in her vulva, and those heifers are supposed to start calving here this month, so I'm making some preparations for that. I'm going to cut all those South Pole heifers out and away from the other cattle, and with the idea that I want to be able to watch them and not have a bunch of other cattle in the way when I'm trying to catch their calves and weigh them and tag them and identify them so that I can get them registered. Now you see there's a little red bull that's half South Pole and half Angus Cross that got through the gate with that last little group. So I'm opening another gate, and I'm going to cut them back, or cut them out, and let those heifers and that cow out, and then I'm going to keep that bull back and then put him back in the pen with the other calves. So I've got lots of options with pins, which makes this job a lot easier. And we'll just run that calf right back into where he came from. And he's a good looking little bull calf. Okay, here's what I have left after I've cut everything off. And they're a pretty uniform group of calves. There's a steer in here that's a monster that's 10 months old, but they're okay. So I'll get a better video of them and separate out the bulls from the heifers. There's a nice little heifer right there, and we're going to start the weaning process. So I unrolled a roll of hay adjacent to the corrals, and I like to do fence line weaning, meaning the cows can get next to the fence line, and it is a lot less stress on the calves, a lot less stress on the cows. Everybody will bawl for 5 or 6 days, and then all of a sudden things will turn off quiet and everybody will be back to business as normal. So there's some big calves in there. There's some May calves, and they're a little bigger than I like to wean at, but again, my time is not my own sometimes. So I got the hay out. They'll be pretty quiet till this evening later when they quit eating and they ruminate, and then those cows will all congregate along the side of the fence there, and they'll bed down overnight, and then in the morning about 5:30, 6 o'clock, you'll really start to hear everybody bawling and crying out for each other. So just part of the normal process. I'll unroll hay along this little field here, and the hay that's not eaten will fertilize this Jig's pasture here. The other thing I did was I went ahead and hooked up another watering trough here. The cattle usually water in the pens, and I've got the pens closed off for obvious reasons. So I've got a Job Mega Float valve on this trough. I showed you how to do that in a previous video, and you can see these cows they're satiated. They're leaving the hay and they're walking on back down into the pasture. There's starting to be a little bit of green coming, and so the cows are hitting the hay substantially less hard. In another week, 10 days, I'll probably not have to feed much hay, although if they'll eat it, I'll feed it till they're on full grass. So the cows are starting to bawl a little bit. These South Poles are more interested in what's going on than anything, but you'll see the cows that had a calf, they'll be lined up here tomorrow. Everything else will go off and eat, and we'll be able to identify who's who. I've had a bunch of cows lose their ear tags this year, so that's been a little bit problematic, and I'll get those put back in. But there's the cows eating along the hay. Here's the calves. I put out a little bit of what our local feed store calls beef maker, and I'll feed them that probably for a week to 10 days, and then as I liquidate things, then obviously I'll do less. So these are all for sale. I'm gonna make another video showing them here after they kind of settle down a little bit. You can see they're not wild at all. That one wants to get right in the feed bunk, and we're gonna get in there. So they're going to that feed really well. And again, if you're a purely regenerative rancher and you're totally against any feed outside of grass, then this may bug you a little bit, but at the end of the day, we all do things different, and I personally don't have a problem with this with regard to getting these calves started and try to be as low stress as we can. So that's my video for today. I certainly appreciate you watching, and I hope that we can see you on down the road. Thank you.